All right, I am here with Troy Assoignon. I'd never
Yeah,
know if I say your last name right.
yeah, you nailed it pretty close. It's a swingyon, or a
Assoignon.
swingyon. You want to be like super English about it. A
So there's a
swingyon,
little
if you want to be
there's a little
French.
swing in the middle to get to the end of the last name.
Yeah, it's like a swing yon.
Okay.
Ah,
Well, just quick intro for you. I know, um, we've obviously known each other for a while now, and your life story is pretty cool. Started out sort of in the blue collar space, then you became a digital nomad, got into marketing. Now you've got your brand internal success, where you're helping coach consultants and experts and stuff like that. So I know this is take two of our conversation, and yeah, just looking forward to diving back in and learning more about your story and sharing your story with people who don't know it yet. So yeah, I know we were just talking right before we hit record. You're back in Mexico after being in Canada, right?
yeah. We got back to Mexico. I think it's like almost three or 4 weeks now. I've almost been home for a month, I believe. And yeah, we're settled back in at home. It's nice to have my office and yeah, we try and visit family every summer, and like Mexico gets really hot in the summer, so we try and escape the heat and check out the nature in Canada and then come on back when it's winter. So we're basically snowbirds.
Yeah. And you avoid that crazy seaweed there in Riviera Maya, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
insane?
yeah, you get massive sargassum in the summer, and it makes the beach, uninhabitable, if that's the word. Like it makes it not enjoyable. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely escaping the sargassum.
That was crazy when we were there seeing like every single morning the resorts, like people out on the beach just with,
Bro.
you know, pitchforks and bulldozers moving all that seaweed.
Man, some summers, like these piles were, I would say, like 6 to 10 feet tall. It's just,
Oh my God.
oh my God. It's like, it is a big stinking pile of seaweed. And like, from a brand perspective too, right? Like that makes like the reason we actually chose to live here is blue waters. Like I think there was a choice of like either living in Puerto Vallarta or the Caribbean side. And it's like, well, I mean, blue waters, like that's pretty cool. Like in Puerto Vallarta, you get like a murky Pacific Ocean, so it's kind of whatever. But here it's like, well, blue. So that is interesting because like that's what they're known for. And I think it's a serious operation how much money they spend on raking up seaweed and disposing of it. Like literally, there's a seaweed dump like in Tulum. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, there's so many beautiful parts of the ocean there. Like I think did I see on social media you guys were just went to Cozumel?
Man, we just did a 3-day dive trip
Oh,
and
nice.
it was the best ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a friend's 41st birthday and we went out free diving for 3 days and bro, it was so fun. We had about six
Wow.
nights and we seen like a fully grown barracuda. I've never when I seen it in the distance, I thought it was a shark because it was big, like 6'5", almost 7 feet. And it's like,
Wow.
oh man, it was a monster. I've never seen like that big of a sea creature.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And barracudas, they still have sharp teeth, right?
oh yeah, very sharp
Yeah.
teeth. They don't, they're not known to attack humans like consistently, but if you piss them off, like they will let you know who's who in
Wow.
the water. So, and they're kind of curious too. So they're also like that one wasn't particularly stocky, but other barracudas we swam by that were probably like 3 and 4 feet long were like kind of stalking us a little bit and just like
Mm.
checking you out, like, what are you up to? And it's like, oh, like go away. So, dude, it's cool. Honestly, it's one of my favorite dive trips in a while. Like Cozumel, there's a lot of life out there. Yeah.
Yeah, we did like a 1 day tour there when we were living out
Oh,
there at
cool.
Playa del Carmen, and we did a quick little snorkel session,
Yeah.
maybe 30, 45 minutes or something. But yeah, the water's super clear, crystal clear.
Man. Yeah. I mean, man, we swam to the outside of a dolphin enclosure, and it's basically chain link fence through the water and dolphins are inside it. So we were swimming alongside like the fence with the dolphins and they were like playing with us, like they were
No
connecting
way.
with us. Dude, it was so cool. And
Wow.
like around that structure, there's like thousands of just fish just chilling, like just hanging out, like just it was unbelievable. Like it was cool. The interesting thing is like there was people watching us as we were doing that, and we're like, why are they so observant? Like we're not touching the cage, whatever, we're not doing anything. And we realized after that, like people probably come and like cut the cage open and they
That's like exactly where my
yeah,
mind went
so
first.
we're like, why are they so like on us? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's like people that will go up to that dolphin enclosure, dive down and cut a hole. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
that does make sense now. We also seen a nurse shark, just a tiny little like it's a reef shark and it's not super aggressive, pretty docile, is like hiding underneath a rock. Man, just an unbelievable like bunch of eels. Yeah, we need to talk about I could talk about this all day.
That's awesome, man. Well, like I said, I know this is take two, and we just had some technical difficulties the first time, and I wanted to make sure enough
Yeah.
time elapsed where I like forgot some of this stuff. So, for anyone
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
watching, yeah, maybe tell a little bit about your story because it's cool to hear about, your
yeah.
background, where you came from, and so your evolution over the years.
Yeah, gosh. Okay. So my story, my professional career, I guess from like 18 years old, I started off as like a construction contractor. I self-taught myself graphic design at like 12 to 13 years old. So like that's important later in my story. But so I started construction. My dad taught me production, taping, painting steel studs, and like how to basically work on piecework. So essentially you finish a job, you get paid on the footage that you complete. If you complete a lot, you get paid more. If you complete less, you get paid less. So it really taught me early on that like it's not really about the hours that I put in, it's about the result that I get. And obviously I have to put the hours in to get the result, but I can be really efficient at my work and work really hard and then take time off when I'm tired. And that was interesting because like most of my, I guess, younger years, like, I'd work in restaurants as a dishwasher, like, a fry cook. And it's like, you got to put in your 8 hour shift and go home and do it all over again. So it exposed me to entrepreneurship and production. And like my first, my first paycheck, my dad was like, well, you got to write me an invoice. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what's that? And he's like, oh, you got to date it. You got to put your name on it and you got to put the amount of pay that I'm going to pay you for this project because you're taking a chunk of it. And it's like, oh, crazy. So I buy an invoice book, I write it up and he gives me a check. And I'm like, oh, like that's how it works. Like I write invoices and people pay them. So it exposed me to like entrepreneurship just like through fire, I guess. And we'd flown all over like northern Canada to various native reservations and like uh housing projects and like up north and like the middle of I would say nowhere. And we'd fly in for like 2 week stints and finish 6, 7 houses, come back, fly up again, come back. And man, did that for a long time. So I was a construction contractor for like 8 or 9 years. And I guess at a peak, like I had about 15 to 20 employees, some subs, some full time, on payroll. And we were taking down big projects like Cabela's, Outfitters, and like really big luxury home
Oh,
projects.
nice. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, yeah, actually, that was yeah, we did a Cabela's Outfitter in Winnipeg, and I would say it was probably like one of the bigger jobs that we did. It was about 6 plus months of just like footage, like just so much board feet. And a lot of it was off of scissor lift. So you'd finish what you could from the ground, then the rest had to get finished from scissor lift. It was cool. I built a relationship with a contractor from Alberta, and he bid the project and won the bid and needed somebody in Winnipeg to run point. So I ran point and all the finishing, and it was a cool gig. It taught me a lot. I was like 23, 24. I had a bunch of other like 23, 24-year olds working for me, and we just smashed it out. And yeah, it's a long project. I found I liked some commercial projects. Like, it's funny because like we all enjoy variety in our work. Like we like different experiences, right? So initially I started doing housing and smaller projects so I could get a lot of projects. But then you also face a lot of like feast and famine of spending more time on getting projects than you do on projects. So then at some point later on, we would get into like longer projects so we could actually like plan out the next 6 to 9 months instead of like one off, one off, one off. So that was, I guess, my background. Man, I don't know where I transitioned that story or anything, but like I could ramble about it for a while. But yeah, like I was a construction contractor for quite some time. And yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Yeah. And then I know from there,
Yeah.
that's where at some point the graphic design and the freelancing sort of entered the picture, right? And you were,
Yeah.
and if I'm wrong, correct me, but you were
Yeah.
kind of thinking like you were looking for something new and something that was not so
Yeah.
hard on your body too, right?
Yes. Thank you for that. Because yeah, I had super severe sciatica, which was affecting my back and just walking and moving. And yeah,
Sciatica
like,
is the worst, like especially when you try to go to sleep and it's just
and you
yeah.
have to carry
I've only
things
had it
like,
once and it was because I realized it was because I was going too deep on my leg presses. And so
oh,
I don't go so deep anymore.
man,
But like I had it for like a week or so and I
yeah.
was like, man, this sucks. You're trying to sleep and it just zings you.
Man, like, well, in trying to function as a functional, like, I don't want to say high performing entrepreneur, but like trying to perform and be on point when you got a bunch of other people looking up to you, it's like it, the pain's so debilitating that it just like takes you off your game. And we're carrying like heavy scaffolds and like 50-pound boxes of mud and like working above your head with your hands in the air for like hours. So it's just like, yeah, it's tough. And I think the big thing for me, I realized at one point, it's like, I can't, like, unless I totally get off the tools, which was really challenging, I can't do this until I'm like 50 or 60. Like I'm like, what, at that time, 23, 25, and it's like I'm crippled now and I'm at like the peak physical of like my humanness for say like a young strapping 25-year-old. And it's like if this is destroying me now, like what's it going to be later? So that kind of led me to searching and wanting to get out, and like I had a lot of responsibilities and debt and payments and like things to take care of. So it wasn't just like pull the rip cord and just like get out. It wasn't like an easy transition by any means. So I think I'd been searching, wanting to find a new career path and like just looking like, when you kind of get into that searching phase, it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like frantic, but it's like you're just like, you're looking everywhere for a solution to said horrible, painful problem. And I came across some dude just talking some game about like working online, traveling, and like selling advice. And I was like, this is interesting. Like I know a thing or two about a thing or two, but like I've never like heard of this. I reached out to him. He got me to read the 4 Hour Work Week. And then a couple weeks after that, we met up at a coffee shop, and he pitched me on a coaching program and if I wanted to learn marketing. And I was like, huh, yeah, like I want to learn something. Like I don't know what I want to learn, but I want to get out of construction. So I bought a training course, and it was all on like Evan Pagan's marketing training materials. And yeah, I spent the next 2 to 3 years, I guess, learning marketing while I was still on construction projects. So I would have headphones in my ears. I would lead projects. So people would be coming to me for questions. I would be in charge, so I wouldn't get in trouble with my headphones in my ear. So I'd have like one headphone in, listen to my marketing training, do my production work, still keep a career going, and then eventually wanting to transition, we started a community called the Young Entrepreneurs Society. And this was an offline events company in Winnipeg, Manitoba, that was meant to like bring entrepreneurs together. It's just like bring entrepreneurs together, create fun parties, have events. And through these events, like we would have 200 plus people attending, and like Audi, Bacardi, Mercedes sponsoring, and like giving away test drives on the weekend. And like it was fun. There was models, everyone was dressed sexy, and it was just like it was fun. It was a fun entrepreneur party. And through this though, I met other entrepreneurs that were very similar to me, and like, how do I say this? They wanted more out of life. They didn't really know what was next. They didn't really know how to grow. They'd gotten themselves to a point where things were stable and like it was okay, but it really wasn't the end all be all, but they really felt kind of trapped. And that showed me that like, holy wow, like I'm not alone here. When I felt trapped, I felt alone, which we normally do. And then, yeah, it gave me confirmation that there might be something here in regards to like helping entrepreneurs and coaching and marketing and helping them grow and reposition their brands and like rework their offerings. So I guess, man, I had moved to Vancouver at this point on like a one-way ticket, and I started doing a lot more design work, like logo work, graphic design. And through a lot of logo and design work, like people kept asking me, like, well, where are my clients? Like I'd finish a beautiful brand, beautiful design, and they'd be like, well, like, how do I get like new people into my business? And it's like,
Wait, so
oh,
you're telling me that someone needs more than just a beautiful logo to create a business?
yeah, yeah, right. So this kept happening like consistently.
Right.
And I would actually feel bad because people would come to me, and I wasn't cheap by any means. Like it would be $1,000 to $2,000 for a logo, and they'd be like, "Cool, I want to get this done," and I'd work with them, and like we break out like what this logo means to them and the symbology and all that stuff. But I'm like, wait, like, why are we spending all this time and all this money on all this stuff that doesn't really matter? Meanwhile, now they're $2,000 poorer, and they're not better off than they were beforehand. They might have a logo that makes them feel good, but like it at one point it kind of felt like borderline unethical if I knew I could actually help them. If I didn't know I could help them, whatever, deliver logos and deliver designs till the end of time. But the fact that I knew that I could help them strategize an actual sales strategy, an actual plan, and an actual like go to market strategy that's going to get them noticed, it's like, well, I should pitch them on that instead of like, hey, this logo thing that you think you need. What you actually need is this. And later on, we can get your logo and branding done too. But
Yeah.
first, let's do this.
Yeah,
So,
and that's why I said that kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, because it's like, you know,
yeah.
it's really it makes sense that you saw that because yeah, there's nothing wrong with the logo, right? But it's just such a classic like first thing that people think they need,
Yeah.
in a business, and then
Yeah.
they realize like, wait, the phone's not ringing,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
visitors to my website, like
What
so
you
that
actually need is an invoice book.
right.
Or like, right? Like, um, so okay. Uh yeah, and like how do I say this? I think through a lot of it, it's just like, yeah, I worked on various sales strategies. And then my first actual coaching client, he ran a cleaning business, and he came to me and he's like, dude, like things just aren't going the way I thought it would. And I need help. I need to turn it around. And like I wasn't really like at that point, I to be honest, wasn't pitching coaching programs that much. I was just like talking about motivation and like just posting stuff. And yeah, he reached out and I was like, holy crap, like dude wants to like pay me money. And it's like, and he's like already ready to pay me money to help him do things. Like I don't have to like convince him. Like he's here in my inbox asking, how do we do things? So I came up with an offer. I pitched him. He hopped on board. We turned around his cleaning business within the first 3 months. And like, that was my first consulting experience. I was like, wow, like this works. Like this actually, I can sell advice and give marketing strategy and give him insights that I learned from my construction career that he can implement and make money from. It's like, holy man, like that's really valuable. Like that's it feels good. It's like this feels like a good natural value exchange. It's like I won, he won. We didn't, nobody lost here. And it's like, and now we have a great friendship too. So that showed me consulting. And then like over the years, it's just kind of expanded from there, I guess. Yeah. So that's like a little bit of detail into my journey, but there's so many more steps along the way.
Yeah. Well, and at some point you started traveling, as a digital nomad and never stopped, right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess at that point, landed my first consulting client and landed a couple more after that, like an agency guy and a couple other gigs. And then Alicia's like, so I met my partner Alicia through the Young Entrepreneur Society, like I guess the events company that we started. Me and her hit it off through Facebook Messenger. I booked a one-way ticket and left Winnipeg and moved to Vancouver. And then probably about like 6 months after that, I was living in Vancouver, started my consulting career, left my construction business behind. Alicia's like, yeah, I want to go to Bali and I want to go to like this retreat my friend's hosting. And, maybe you can come after the retreat if you want. And I was like, huh. Like I'd always wanted to travel, but I felt like I needed to be ready to travel. And I was like, huh, well, I guess like, yeah, I guess I can come and like we'll check it out. And like if we like it, we'll stay. The reality is like once you go to Bali, you don't just go for like a month. It's kind of this like vortex that turns into 6 to 8 months to a year later, and all of a sudden you're still in Indonesia. So that was the beginning of our nomadic experience. We went to Indonesia. 8 months later, we came back. I don't want to get like into the whole story of us coming back, but our house got trashed. We rented it to some dum dum, and it was our fault for renting it to somebody. And then after that, we were like, well, I don't think we like have a place here in Canada. Like I don't feel at home. I felt more at home abroad. And then from there, I mean, a couple months later, we booked a ticket to Thailand. And then we were in Thailand for another 6 to 8 months, and then Malaysia for almost 8 months to a year. And we just kind of been abroad since. We've been abroad now for almost 8+ years. And yeah, just traveling around and yeah, it started off as like maybe we'll just adventure a little bit, and then it just kind of became a full-time thing. And I think the pandemic made the world realize that they can operate a business abroad. I think when we first started, everyone's like, you're nuts, you're crazy, this is wild, I can't believe it. And then after the pandemic, it's like, wow, you're so smart, good job, great work. And it's like, huh, interesting. Like what was stupid and like reckless before this is now brilliant and like ahead of the curve. So it's like, huh, interesting. So yeah, like our journey, I mean, my journey has been so many different pieces along the way, but it's like, yeah, it started from design, went to a lot of coaching consulting, did a lot of agency work, and like now doing a lot more consulting again, as well as some marketing, advertising, agency positioning work too. So yeah.
Yeah. When do you think the seed was planted for traveling? Was it when you read the 4 Hour Work Week? Was it before that?
I think it was before that, honestly. I think it was the Discovery Channel. And as a kid, man, like I remember and I still remember that Discovery Channel was channel 14 and it was the nature channel. Like you get to see unbelievable nature that's like, wow, like just breathtaking. Um, I think I'd always like my family traveled a lot as kids, actually. Like my parents took us to Florida we had been like in all sorts of, yeah, just different road trips and like through North Dakota, South Dakota, and like uh Arizona, you name it. Like my parents took us to a lot of states. So I think like naturally we were adventuring as kids. And then yeah, as I got older, like and doing more construction, it's like you miss a lot of the summers and you work all summer and you freeze all winter. And it's just like, yeah, it's like at some point it's like, man, like when can I catch a break here? Like I don't get to enjoy any of my summers, and winters are so cold, and like summers are always boom because the ground's defrosted. Like in construction, when there's no frost on the ground, things get done. People are working, like they work 14 to 16-hour days. So yeah, I don't know. It's just how do I say? Yeah, it's just a big old journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember like when HD TVs came out, like we
And
and then like watching Planet Earth or something in HD, and yeah, some of those travel shows, it was like
yeah,
wow.
dude, I love the Planet Earth show. Like that
Yeah.
show is like a 6-part series of like the water, the African safari, and like all the different like areas. Ah, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think yeah, my travel seed was planted from all that.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, and then you mentioned, now you're doing some of the coaching consulting stuff again.
Yeah.
And you've got internal success. Yeah, how's that been, growing that
Yeah.
brand and
Yeah. Yeah.
curious to hear about it.
Yeah. So I mean, over the years, I kind of fell into advertising and running an agency, and we'd been managing like millions of dollars in ad spend for clients across like some gaming, some sports betting sectors, and some real estate sectors, and just like various niches. And it kind of just, how do I say this? All of a sudden, I just arrived and I'm running an agency, and it's like, oh, like how did I get here, and like how are we working on all this stuff? Uh, what I kind of reflected on is like I still enjoy some agency work, but what I really enjoy is the consulting and like coaching and mentorship side. When I actually get to facilitate a transformation with somebody and work with them towards a goal or transformation or desired end result, and actually get to see it unfold. That's really meaningful to me. It's like super meaningful work. And I think I do enjoy the agency side of things, but oftentimes it's like very corporate and very, I don't want to say dry, but it's like you're not transforming an individual. You might be training and helping other individuals become better marketers, but I find I'm not, yeah, in a lot of my consulting work, it's like helping out the business owner that is doing good, but really wants to take things up a level, like getting to see them go from like this is I to like this is amazing, and I'm so excited about this business that I'm building, and like I got time freedom and I got cash flow, and like I get to work on purposeful stuff. I think that's important. And I think that was always missing for me is like construction didn't feel like purposeful. It just like, okay, another day, let's put in the work, and then next week we'll put in more work, and never feel any sense of purpose other than like you get a paycheck, yay, and you move on to the next job. So like I think yeah, this consulting and coaching work that I'm doing now, and like a lot of pricing, positioning, packaging, and like helping people reposition and get offers to market. It like there's a lot of, how do I say this? There's a lot of internal work that goes on throughout that. And that's also why I named the newsletter Internal Success, is like in my time coaching a lot of individuals, it's like it's never necessarily the strategy that gets in the way, it's us that get in the way implementing the strategy. So usually we
So
need
someone
coach.
might think like, oh, it's a strategy problem, or oh, I don't know how to do like the how of XYZ, when in reality it
Yeah.
really has to do with their personal growth.
Yeah, and just the way that you look at a situation, like you might have a lens or a worldview that just doesn't allow you to see, how X, Y, and Z connects. So it's like, I think, how do I say this? Yeah, I think it's just you can have the perfect strategy, but if you don't see how it works and understand how it all kind of connects and like the intricacies of it, it's just really hard to take it to market because it's just like you against you. Whereas when you have outside like consulting and different forces, like you can see the oversights that you might have had that would make the strategy work, if that makes sense. So it's like all strategies are created equally, but implementation is not. Like implementation's so different. Like it's like markets react differently, people respond differently, sophistication levels are different across various sectors and industries. And it's like the same pitch that works for construction doesn't work for biotech, or you know what I mean? It's just like it's depending, there's certain elements of it that might, but there's pieces of it that won't connect. So it's like finding those pieces with people, I think is really important. And I think it's like that's why I focus on a lot of positioning is it really is about the nuances of like it's the tiny tweaks and the fine tuning stuff that makes a big difference in individuals and companies. Like it's generally not these grandiose, you know, you're a totally new person in the next 24 hours or less. It's generally like these small fine tunes of just like adjusting the knob a little bit to get the optimal, most highest performance. So yeah, that's I always thought that was interesting.
Cool. And what about like the audience building side of it? Like how have you found that, creating content, connecting with people?
Yeah.
What are some of the things you've learned from that?
Gosh. So I've been creating for almost a year straight on LinkedIn now. I took like probably like 2 to 3 years off social media after spending a lot of time on Facebook. So I think content is a necessary evil in regards to like it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of thought to produce consistently good content. However, it kind of eventually becomes like a natural muscle that you develop. Like it's not, you know, you just pull up a Word document and you write and it just happens. It's just like this natural thing. So, how do I say this? The social media really is about connecting with people. And I think that often gets missed in content. Like, content is used to create a position, a narrative, share ideas, share offers, share thoughts, and like you essentially through sharing those, you create a brand and connection. But through that, you need to actually connect with people. So I think my experience has been like social is so much better when I'm social and I'm actually purposefully going out and connecting with other people on platforms that aren't necessarily going to lead to direct business, but they're in the game, if that makes sense. Like they're playing the game, they're there, they're relevant, and they support you. They like to like engage with you, if that makes sense. They might not ever be a client, but they're a fan. And I think you build a lot of fans up on social media that like just enjoy who you are. And they promote and pump up a lot of your work by just because they know you're a decent person with great intentions, you actually care. And through a lot of that, then you get exposure to different networks because like, how do I say, like the way that a lot of LinkedIn works is like you have first degree, second degree, and third degree connections. And like when you're connected to the one connection, you're then connected to their entire network. And like you start spreading into different networks as you start interconnecting with different degrees of connections. So I think like on top of content creation, the ultimate goal with content is connection. So it's like if we just focused on connection first in a lot of content creation, I think it wouldn't be such a mystical like thing. Because I think content's so mystical to a lot of people. It's like, how do I create? How do I do all these things? It's like share pieces that connect with your ideal audience, and you'll create meaningful conversations with people that care. And if you do that long enough, you build up an audience of people that actually want to work with you and or know people that want to work with you because they trust you. So my experience building it has been like it takes a shitload of work, just to like put it totally blunt. Like content takes work, and I think most people aren't willing to put that work in to produce consistently. On the flip side of it, content is a linear game of like one foot in front of the other. It's just like post after post after post after post after post. At least written content is. So I've been trying to think about content differently in regards to like, I'm building out a YouTube channel in addition to LinkedIn. So it's like LinkedIn will be my top of funnel. YouTube will be the middle of funnel to kind of get to know me, spend some time with me. Email then will be the bottom of my funnel, where it's like I send you offers. So YouTube, in my mind, video content is so much different than written content, because written content, it gets read, it disappears. Video content becomes more timeless, and it just like you can watch a piece of training and understand fundamentals in regards in a video training. So I think adding that element, it kind of helps me escape just like linear step-by-step growth. And I think also strategic partnerships is something that like is super overlooked. Anytime I've like done podcasts, for example, with you, this is a strategic partnership where I now get in front of your audience, you get in front of my audience, we kind of commingle our audiences together, and our years of building together create like a strategic effect. So I've been trying to think about that a bit more in regards to like, cool, if I have the linear like daily growth, like what are the next steps that create more, I guess, quantum leaps in regards to growth? And that's like partnerships, strategic partnerships, trainings, joint ventures, it can be like master classes, live things. So it's like these ways of training a bulk amount of people in one same hour, instead of like one-to-one hours of exchange. So that's one thing I've been really thinking about. And one thing that made me think about that is somebody recommended my newsletter earlier in the year, and it has contributed to the majority of the newsletter growth, which is fascinating. So like my efforts have contributed 50% of the growth, but their recommendation has also contributed 50% of the growth. And it's like, holy crap. It's like, I literally don't have to do anything, and this is growing. And I just refresh, and I'm getting new emails, and they're interested. Like they're super aligned. They're interested in health. This person that recommended me does health stuff. And because they're interested in health, they're probably interested in performance and like internal and like mindset and expert stuff in entrepreneurship and consulting. So it's like super aligned. So that was interesting to me. It's just like an aha of like, oh wow, like there's different ways to grow that aren't just like putting in the work. Like you can actually think a little longer term. So I know that was a long-winded response, but I think it kind of gave the full detail to it.
Yeah, I no, I think that's great, and it's kind of yeah, maybe it's not one or the other, but thinking of,
Yeah.
organic growth, starting from zero, building slowly. It's like, there's so many opportunities, like you say, for partnerships. And I use that word, loosely, like not
Yeah, yeah.
maybe not literally a partner with someone, but create something
Create
together.
some form of partnership together. And it's not like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like we just did an interview with Amber Spears, who's
I
really
seen that.
heavy
Yeah.
on the yeah, she's really heavy on the affiliate side, and she talks about it. She calls it a transfer of trust. It's like there's already people out there with existing audiences, with existing assets, and if they trust you and you trust them, and you can deliver value to each other, it's like you can that's such a powerful way to tap into things.
Ooh, I love the transfer of trust. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And then you know, yeah, it seems like it's cool to have both. And I really like the way that you talked about the funnel structure of like how
Mm.
different platforms maybe serve different purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's been really interesting to me, is that like the thing about LinkedIn is people are on LinkedIn to like mostly do business, which is cool. Facebook, people are on Facebook to connect and pseudo get business. Like it's kind of like this like hidden behind a veil of a bunch of pitches of like, I don't know, it seems different. Whereas like, yeah, people on LinkedIn like really actually want to do business and they're literally there to grow. Like the only reason they have a LinkedIn thing is because they've said, hey, I want to professionally grow. I'd like to expand. I'd like to like network and do business. So that was really interesting to me. I find like, how do I say this? As I'm writing internal success, we're almost on edition 52, which is a year of writing every Thursday morning. And like it's a pretty beefy email. It's not just like a quick social media post. Like it's like the lesson, the mission, the study, the homework. Like it's a big comprehensive piece. But after a year of committing to writing in one direction, I now have a ton of great content, which is really cool. So it's like I've never strategically built up a backlog of like long, well-written stuff. I've built up backlogs of social media posts, but I've never taken the time to like actually write out these intentional pieces. So now, like a year later, I have so much content that I'm like, if I have a bad day or whatever, I got a piece that I can put out, and I can even put out like the first paragraph of the lesson section. And it's like, I don't even have to do the whole email. It's like that piece was well thought out. I can lean on that today. So I think that's been really interesting is like, I'm creating this content ecosystem of like stuff that works together. And then eventually the products work together inside that ecosystem as well. And it's like, how does it all kind of flow intentionally, congruently, and strategically? So I like it. And I don't also like build this prison around this like brand that I've created. So I think that happens with a lot of people is like they choose a niche and a direction and they build like this thing that they kind of hate. So I'm trying to stay loose with it, but also like build it into something that I enjoy. Cause that to me is actually the most important piece of all my work is like enjoying what I do. So then therefore, when I do strategy with clients, it's good strategy and not just like, here's your thing. Hopefully it works. Or you know what I mean? Like I want it to be like a fully like embodied experience, if I may.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And then yeah, the part about repurposing the content I think is great too. It's like there's so many opportunities to use it and in some cases, if you post that, one snippet somewhere else, it's like, you're increasing the amount that people are able to consume it. Like maybe some people read part of the email, but they didn't read this part. And then,
Yeah.
oh, they see it over on LinkedIn and that sparks something for them. It's yeah, it's just a good way to
Mhm.
yeah, I think there's maybe a fear of some people like, oh, I said this already. So everyone
Yeah.
read it and they know it and they remember. It's like a lot of
Yeah.
like if you look at some of the biggest brands, like I'll just take Robert Kiyosaki, for example. Like he says the same thing. He's been saying the same
Oh,
thing since like the late 90s, like since
yeah.
Rich Dad Poor Dad came out, like every single year, you know?
Hitting
It's
it.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's a danger in repeating yourself and people saying, "Oh, he already said that."
Yeah, yeah. I think so. Okay, I think that is the biggest trap that I think a lot of us get into is we get bored with our own work and we want to do something new. And I think it's like, okay, and that's fine. But it's like, how do you stay on a similar and or same position? How do you choose a strong position that's like somewhat malleable as well that you can then create so many different ideas into? Because I think like Rich Dad Poor Dad as a brand, there's a bajillion ideas that you can pump into that. Or you know what I mean? Like there's a
Yeah.
bajillion different types of opportunities you can pull into that. Whereas if it's like basket weaving for amateurs. It's like you can only talk about that for so long until like you become kind of annoyed and you don't want to talk about it anymore. And at that point, you systematize it and hopefully create something that you don't actually have to do things with. But whole nother story.
Yeah.
So dude, that's so interesting is like what you said about Kiyosaki saying the same thing over and over is like, I think it's the hardest thing about content is like our perception is that this is boring and not new, whereas the viewer's perception is, whoa, I've never read this before.
Yeah, and I think there's constantly new people coming into the market too.
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, kids who were 12 years old are now 22 and they're coming online and like, right, they're learning some of these things for the first time. So I think the longer you're doing something, you're also like reaching new people that are brand new to some of this stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. I think, man, it really is like committing to like this one direction. I think, and this is really interesting. So we're doing a bunch of video right now, and like we're doing YouTube editing video. Alicia's doing a bunch. We got an Osmo Pocket 3, a DJI camera, super sweet camera. However, it's like in the creation of videos, like, and Mr. Beast said this, he's like, create 10 videos, publish a video a week, and realize how crappy they are. And in every video, try and do one thing better. And it's like, huh, interesting. And like through, like, I would say I'm now like probably 6, 7 videos in. It's like now I have all these like little techniques and tools that I'm adding to my belt, like over a period of time that I wouldn't have. I think what was interesting to me is like initially learning video was really scary and daunting because it's like you're almost bordering on script writing and like pre-creating a scenario. And it's like copywriting. It's like Hollywood. Like you're actually making a scene. And it at first was like a little daunting. And I was like, wait, what if like that's kind of like stepping into my own edge of like a creative? It's like, what if like my whole career I've gotten good at like a couple other things, like I'm decent at copy, I'm decent at positioning, I'm good at like writing offers and advertising, all that stuff. But what if my edge is like stepping into creating better, more connected video and film? And that comes from just thinking like a really smart marketer and taking the ideas from here, getting them down on paper, reorganizing them, and then shooting them. And it's like, whoa, that's like a next level of creativity. It's like, I think there's no disbenefit by committing to that if I choose to commit to that. Like, I don't get any disbenefit long term. Short term, might waste some time learning a couple things. Long term, I can produce epic videos. And I was like, huh, yeah, that's actually like sounds like a good thing to do. Like as I kind of weighed out like the things in my mind. But it's just interesting because it's like it's using skills that I already have in a new and innovative way that kind of adds a little bit of newness and like life to my creations, if that makes sense. Like it's not the same old writing another post. It's like it's different. Like it allows me to flex like design muscles and like yeah, some copy muscles and like connection muscles and like lighting, different things. Like it's fascinating. It's really yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's always fun to flex creativity like that. It's
Hmm.
makes a lot of sense. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour here. Anything else you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover today?
Gosh, I don't think so, man. I mean, I think we covered a lot. I felt like I rambled a lot in a couple of pieces. It's like
I don't think
rambled
so.
about my experience. I think that's it. I mean, I'm stoked to just have a conversation with you. I'm glad that
Yeah.
this one wasn't all freezy and choppy like our last one. So that's good. And
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
where's
it.
it? So then where should people come find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, TroyAssoignon. Go to my website, troyassoignon.com. Find me on Facebook, YouTube, most of the social platforms, but I'm primarily active on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. You can find me on Instagram too. I don't post that much on there. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah,
Cool.
appreciate you doing this and yeah, thanks again.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for putting this together and I'm excited for it.
Cool.